And hello and welcome. We have got the other Kate H with blonde hair joining us today. Welcome, Kate Healy.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, the real Kate Holmes.
We have had fun being in meetings a few times where people are like, Kate, and we both go, yeah. And then they're like, no, Kate H. And we both go, yeah. No, this is great. Wonderful to have a kindred spirit.
Awesome.
And Kate, yeah, we're both here. I still want to be you when I grow up. You have done so many amazing things. You've spent so many years working with NextGen advisors and planners. You have been at every conference, on every stage, involved in tons of research. Like, you've just got a wealth of knowledge that I am super excited to share with everyone today as we talk about how to attract and retain NextGen talent. And, one of the things that I was talking with Penny Phillips about on the podcast last week was this idea that during the pandemic, how everything has changed and nothing has changed. So from your perspective, Kate, what would you say has changed in terms of the future of financial planning and attracting next-gen talent?
I think it's been a catalyst, right, for some things, right? We're seeing things that may have been excuses before. So the whole you can't work remote thing, which was keeping a lot of, young moms out of the marketplace, or a military spouse who was being, moving with their partner to new locations and had to relocate all the time. Well, guess what? We can work from anywhere. We can give great financial advice no matter where we are. You are the queen of that. We don't even know what country you're in half the time. But it's really escalated that ability to do that. And then the other part of that goes along with it is, I think it's providing opportunities for more diversity, because no longer do we have that. I saw this great student, but they go to school in Utah and my practice is over here in Florida, and I really want diversity and I might not have it where I am, but I can get it there. What am I going to do? Well, guess what? Now you can work virtually with that person. We've just seen it. We're doing this. It's like you're in my office with me. Nothing's going to replace live and in person, but there is so much that can be done, and technology has just gotten so much better, even just in the past 9 months, 10 months since we've been doing this, about how we can really start to engage with people. So many things have stayed the same, but there is just that switch to technology that is allowing us to really start to embrace diversity. No excuses anymore. Don't tell me you can't find anyone, because how can you not find anyone when we connect electronically? We should be able to find people anywhere and still work with them.
Yeah, and you can, but I am surprised how many conversations I'm still having with people that are super eager to get back into the office, that are looking to hire, and that very much want someone that is locally based and will be in the office, because they, just don't feel like you can do proper training and build that team culture with somebody, in a different state or especially a different time zone.
Look, it's not easy. I mean, it's not going to be as easy if someone is sitting next to you at your desk and you're saying, look, I'm about to go into a client meeting. Come sit with me and watch. Or this is how I fill out a client report, or here's how I prepare for a client meeting. Here's how I answer the phone. No, it's not that easy, but that doesn't mean that it can't be done. You can shadow in through technology. You're going to have to work at it. And I think that's one of the things that we as an industry have been a little spoiled with, because people are in person. But even when they were in person, we weren't doing a really good job of developing our talent. And so we just have to look at other ways to do it. So think about, what are the 3 hours a week that you're going to have someone shadow you? Maybe it's in a client meeting. Maybe it's as you're preparing for your client quarterly meetings. Whatever that is, maybe it's sitting on the investment committee, and then have an hour every day where you have office hours, kind of like pretend you're a college professor and you just have a Zoom link open and anyone can pop in and just ask you a question, have a cup of coffee with you. There's so many ways that we can still engage, right? We're doing this with our friends and family all the time. We've come up with amazing new ways. I know I've been doing a Zoom call since March with a group of friends that I have. And, admittedly, we got bored. We're not doing that much else outside of this. So we came up with things. We played Mad Libs on the phone. We
Nice.
we played games. We did masks on our face one call, like just things to change it up. But there is a lot that we can do to engage with people virtually. We're seeing, right, you're in someone's home. We're seeing the benefit of it with clients because we're really getting down into what's important to them. They may say something when they're in our office, and now we're seeing their house, and we're seeing the kids and the dog and the trophies in the background, and the spouse popping in and saying, "Oh, hi, did you ask him about, or did you ask her about this?" So
Yeah.
let's think about that. The one thing that we do really well as advisors is connect with our clients. We sometimes forget that we need to connect that same way with the people that work for us. And that's a great way to develop them, is really going through that connection piece.
Yeah, hands down. So before we dive into the developing, first of all, let's chat about attracting next gen talent. What are people looking for these days, and has that changed over the last couple of years?
I think it's changing. I think that people are finally starting to pay attention to the demographics that are happening in the world. And then obviously the talent shortage that's happening in the world. And then all that was exacerbated by the fact of the pandemic, and we're all home and we're looking at things different ways, and we don't know how to find people. And a lot of firms weren't doing their in-person internships. And so that kind of interrupted that supply chain, if you will, of
Huge.
talent. And so
Yeah.
I think advisors are still looking for diverse talent, many of them. They still think they don't know where to find them. And they're a little bit confused now that, maybe they can't just get on campus and see someone. And so, it's that evolution, right? So all of the financial planning programs, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see, because I ask them twice a year, when are your financial planning recruiting days? All of the financial planning programs have recruiting days in the fall and in the spring semester. A lot of them
Nice.
they're happening right now. Check them out. That is a great way to get into talent. And they're all virtual. They figured out how to do this virtually. They set up interviews. They've got, interview rooms where they can do, time with students. You can meet with the program directors, all of that. You can, as a firm, sponsor the recruiting fair. So there's definitely still those opportunities to do that. Make sure that you're connecting with, and now it's even easier, right? I've always said, like, connect with the school that you went to, the one that's in your backyard. Well, now you can really connect with anybody. So if you're looking for diverse talent, look for the HBCUs, look for the minority serving institutions, and ask them for that talent. Ask all the program directors. They know all their students. The profession, especially from the educational perspective, is still small enough that every professor knows all the students that they have, and they'll know who the good people are that might be a fit for your firm if they get to know your firm. So the best way to do that is to show up for the recruiting events, show up. Now you have no excuse to not be able to teach a class for financial planning program, because you're literally going to sit on your couch, turn on your camera, and be a guest speaker. You can still send a donation to buy pizza when they're back in school, or to send gift cards to people, but there's no reason that we can't be connecting with the financial planning professors and the programs themselves. So it's a lot easier to find that talent and continue to expand your network. We can't just look at our LinkedIn pages, because many of us don't have LinkedIn pages that are diverse, right? They're just the same people that we've known throughout the industry. So looking to expand that, whether it's reaching out to organizations like the Association of African American Financial Advisors, or ALPHA, the Association of Latina Professionals, to find people that are different than you, and tell everybody. We always tell the people that we work with, and a lot of times they're in our network and they look and act and think like us. And that's not what we want. We want people that are going to bring new ideas. So start to tell the people that know what you do well, like your clients, because they're going to have a different network. And tell, your friends, tell your clients, have your clients talk to their children, because those parents understand the benefit of what financial advice does for them. So many people don't understand what financial planning is, that parents can often be, the sticking point with when you're trying to recruit students, because they don't know what this is yet, and they're not really sure it's a profession. They want to make sure their kids are going to get a job and be able to pay off student loans. But talking to your clients' kids, they know what this is. So just really expanding and going to all those different places. Just look outside yourself and ask people. Feel free to go on LinkedIn and say, hey, I am looking for more diverse talent. Help me. Somebody point me in a direction. Somebody find me places to help me do that. We don't just go to the same places all the time. There are a ton of diverse organizations that can help you find diverse talent.
Yeah. And what kind of roles are people wanting to hire for in those diverse roles? Is it more back office? Is it front office? A mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. We know that firms are growing, right? So I will say, and I say this often, we talk about the advisor role all the time. And that's great because we know we have a shortage of advisors, right? The average age of the advisor, while it has dropped and we see it coming, below 50, there's still 100,000 advisors that are retiring over the next decade. For some, the pandemic has hastened that. For some, it has pushed it back. But at the end of the day, we're only graduating a couple hundred students a year from financial planning. So regardless, we have a talent shortage in the advisory world. But as more and more people get financial planning, we're seeing the growth of these organizations. So it's not just financial advisors that we need. We need to find people who are going to run client services, who are going to run operations, who are going to run marketing, run trading, compliance, all of that. So while a lot of times people are looking for just the advisor role, I think there's so many other roles in there that we need to be looking for. And so it's not just going to the financial planning profession, to the financial planning programs, but also looking at the marketing programs, the finance programs, the economics programs to get people that can fill out your team. And when you're looking for those financial professionals, you want to look for the helpers, right? And that doesn't always mean they're going to be the financial advisor. Think of all the client service associates that just want to help people. So if you look at the sociology majors and the psychology majors and people and teachers who went to school because they wanted to help people, but they didn't know about our profession. They didn't know that this whole ecosystem existed. And so I think that there's an opportunity for us, especially to bring in more diversity by looking outside of maybe just the advisor role. Because if people don't understand what that is, and a lot of people still have misperceptions that it's all sales and it's all commission based.
Yeah.
And we've
It's all
seen firms
numbers
moving
and
away from that.
calculations and
Yeah.
investments and yeah.
There's a way to make a living and get a salary and get bonuses starting out. And, there can be career paths starting out from a client service associate. You can move into operational roles. You can also move into advisory roles. Some people aren't ready for that, owning that client relationship or what they perceive as selling, which honestly we all do every day. But until you get comfortable doing it and you realize what we call as selling is also relationship building and you're more comfortable with that, maybe that's going to take you 5 years in your career. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't start out in a client service role and start to get to know the clients and see how those interactions happen and realize it's relationship building. And it's not as hard maybe as you think it is to actually sell someone a financial plan or sell them the advice that you want to give them.
Right. And, as we think about diversity and looking in different areas, it is so much bigger than even just the gender or racial diversity. It's the diversity of that background and the experience. And, you mentioned teachers. A lot of people have been talking about nurses that might get burned out after the pandemic and how great they would be in financial services because they are those natural relationship builders with empathy and that helpfulness that you were talking about, or, other kinds of career changers. I mean, there's just so much out there when it's that diversity of thought and experience and approach to solutions. Stacey McKinnon was on a while ago and we were talking about, how they've built Morton Capital and how something like 75% of their employees have no financial services background and came from, things as diverse as Pete's Coffee and yoga studios. And it's about that attitude and approach and how valuable that fresh thinking can be.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to look at that. I've been trying to convince my hairdresser to become a financial advisor for years. I mean, she's great at listening and then
Yeah.
really listening to someone and putting that into, okay, here's what your goals really are, right? Because that's so much of it is it's interpreting what, especially if you're working with, with spouses, partners, right? One's saying one thing, one's saying the other thing. Sometimes they're saying the same thing, but they need that interpretation. So absolutely. When Cerulli does their studies on who's in financial services, the same percentage of advisors have degrees in finance as have degrees in communications. So, clearly we can learn this business. It's coming into there with that heart of wanting to help people and then figuring out what your role is in that.
Yeah, I mean, my degree is in photography, so I don't I don't think there was a very natural path into financial planning from that, but it's that creativity that has actually served me incredibly well and just leveraging whatever that background is. And one of the things, especially with your work with NextGen, that's where I see this most often. And I always think about NextGen in terms of that mindset. So again, it can be that career changer
Right.
with that NextGen mindset of doing things differently is imposter syndrome, especially when you're starting out new. This is an intimidating profession. There are a lot of intimidating people, right? And the perceptions of the numbers and the investments. How do you overcome that imposter syndrome?
Yeah, it can be hard, right? So there's a couple of ways. One is you just kind of fake it till you make it, but it's really that practicing. The great thing about our profession is the community. I don't know of any other jobs, and when I talk to my friends who do different things, where so many people are willing to help each other, even if they are competitors, but they don't feel like they're competitors. I mean,
Yeah.
joining one of the industry associations is a great way to build up confidence. The session that you're running on speaking at conferences, how do you get people to step out of their comfort zone? We have to practice, right? I mean, I was laughing at you, right? We were doing this podcast. I'm like, fine, done podcast. You told me this was live. I'm like, whoa, I haven't done live on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Like, this is something new, or LinkedIn. This is new for me, but I'm figuring it out. So you can all tell me if I'm failing miserably or not, but it's the only way that you're going to learn. So just keep trying and doing it. But you have to think about who the people were before you and really look for. That's where you look for your mentors and your people that are going to help you develop into that, into what that next role is, and to build up your confidence. None of us knew what we were doing when we started this. And what I like to
Yeah.
tell people when I talk to them too is, you think people are paying a lot more attention to you than they are. Everyone is busy in their own world. What I like to do is tell someone what needs to be done and let them figure it out. Because like I always say, 4 + 5 is 9. But so is 2 + 7, and so is 3 + 6. So you
Yeah.
might get to the same answer a different way. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It means you did it your way, but you're still getting to that end result. And so I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to follow in the path of someone else and what they did. Everyone's path is going to be different. Take your path and pay attention. Someone's going to tell you if you're not doing it the right way and they want you to shift. So ask for that feedback, pay attention to that feedback, and pivot when you need to. But uh, get out of your own head. I think we are all so much in our own heads about, oh my God, everyone's watching me do this. Honestly, everyone's really busy doing what they're doing and they're not paying that much attention. Having said that, raise your hand if you need help, because everyone is willing to give that.
Yeah, they are. And that's the other thing I love. It's that like abundance mindset over
Yeah.
being collaborative over competitive, and it is so amazing to see. And you mentioned that fake it till you make it. And I know there's a lot of debate around that and people feel very strongly. And I think it was an article in Inc. magazine just the other day that was talking about, public speakers, and what they should do is actually take a page out of the book of actors. And actors aren't necessarily faking it till they make it. That's just what they do. And it's more about acting like the person you want to become. So you're not faking it. That's just what you have to do, and I really liked that perception of it. And I appreciate you mentioning the speaker and influencer program, because that's one thing that we're doing. The new IA Innovating Advice community just launched last week. And, we're looking at so many of the challenges we've had in the profession and actually creating solutions. So we've seen the articles, we've seen the research, we know conferences are overwhelmingly still white male speakers, and it is hard for people to break into the speaking circuit. And that imposter syndrome is also a huge piece of it, of, who am I to, provide value, or who's going to want to listen to me. And so what we're doing is actually in a global conference in June. It's going to run for
Love this.
36 hours, starting in South Africa, then the US, then Australia, then the UK. We're actually looking for 30 people here in the US, and we are really committed to diversity. And instead of flying speakers or paying those big speaker fees to bring the same people that we always see on stage, is actually investing that into people, training those that have little to no speaking experience, that haven't had the opportunity, the next gen people, the career changers, the diversity and minorities and women, and putting them through this program to then have a 10-minute like TED style talk at the end. And the goal is, I keep thinking about it like a roller coaster. You know, you're like terrified before big roller coasters. And then when you're done, you're like, oh, let's go again. It's a lot like that. The goal is that at the end of that 10-minute talk on this global virtual stage, that you'll say, I want to do that again. Because Kate, you and I were talking, and you have a great story about interviewing Condoleezza Rice and being like, oh my gosh, I'm just kind of getting thrown into this. But as soon as you were done, you're like, well, that went well. You know, so we need these opportunities, and that's what we're trying to create in the IA community. So if you're listening and you're in the US, we would love to have you join and get that opportunity. And yeah, Kate, share the story about Condoleezza Rice and how that surprise went.
Yeah, I love what you're doing because it is important. You know, I was, gosh, I don't even know. It was 2012, I think I was, or 13. I was going to introduce one of our speakers at our conference. Condoleezza Rice was a keynote speaker, and my boss asked me to introduce her. And I'm like, absolutely, that's fine. I'm up on stage for 2 minutes. I have a script. There's a teleprompter. This is easy. I can do this as long as I don't trip up the stairs. I'll be fine. And about 2 weeks before the conference, our organizer said, oh, no, you're not just introducing her. She needs to be moderated. She's not going to take questions from the audience. So you're going to moderate them. You're going to have to figure out questions beforehand and sit on stage with her. And I'm like, oh, so you're going to want someone else to do this, right? And they were like, my boss was like, no, you can do this. I was like, in front of 3,000 people, are you kidding me? And he said, no, I think you can do this. I was like, I'm glad you do, because I don't know. But I prepared.
But Kate, why didn't you think that you could do it?
Because I literally had only ever spoken to maybe a crowd of 50 people at the max. You know, like a breakout session somewhere. Yeah, but not in front of 3,000 people, not speaking to Condoleezza Rice. Like, this was daunting. And so, you know, just I watched every video, I read every book she wrote. I, you know, just really wanted to get into her mindset. And I was just beginning to start talking about diversity and all of those things. And it was literally like the first question I asked her. Like, instead of all the questions we had prepared, I'm like, by the way, and she's such a brilliantly smart woman. I mean, nothing throws her. But, you know, we just talked about, I think she had just come off of something about, she had played golf at, I'm going to forget the name of it, but that golf course that didn't allow women in Georgia. And so we just talked about it, and I was like, look at this crowd where it's clearly not diverse. And we just kind of got into a conversation on diversity, but it was frightening. I think I told you one of the good things was, while there were 3,000 people on stage, with the lights, I could only see about 60 of them. So that helps me. I felt like I wasn't on as big a stage as I was, but it is that kind of, you do. And I like what you said, you know, I think we say fake it till you make it because it sounds cool, but it really is that. Put yourself, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be that person that can stand on stage, visualize yourself? I'm a huge believer in like visualizing where you're going to be, and then putting yourself in that situation to get there. And to that point of just owning it, you're the person on the stage. I promise you that just by being on stage, so many more people think that you know what you're talking about than maybe you do, but it puts you in that position of authority. You're the person speaking. We're all listening. So we're going to gain something from you. Maybe not, we're not going to gain everything that you said, but everyone's going to pick up one or two tidbits from what you say. So I promise you, you know at least one or two more things than everyone else in that audience, and you probably know a lot more than that. And we all learn by hearing different voices. So sign up for that class. And if any of you haven't, I followed you on your 24-hour global commute last year, which was so much fun. I don't know how you did it, but the commute all across the world, really, like in everyone's commuting time zones, it was so much fun. But it is such a collaborative environment. And I promise you, people are here to see you succeed, not fail. So you're going to get the help that you need, and everyone's going to be supportive. And how cool is it to be with a group of people that you're all learning this with together, and then you can just start championing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for joining that global commute. That was super fun. And like you said, it's about that community and supporting each other. One thing I always tell people when it's like before their first time getting on stage, or if they've done it a couple of times and they're nervous, is I don't know anyone that has ever sat in an audience and hoped that a speaker would fail. Even if you get up and your voice is shaking and you're sweating and you're nervous, nobody in that audience is thinking anything other than, you've got this. keep
Right.
going. We are
Absolutely.
like in a way that almost makes you more like, oh, what are they going to say? You know, and you've got a great story. And Lauren Williams at the CFP Board
Mm.
Diversity Summit back in, October
Yep.
2019. I mean, standing ovation. And she was super nervous in the beginning. And that authenticity is so, so valuable.
It is. And
Yeah.
I'll just throw out a little tip that I learned. I think the concern is, oh my God, I'm going to forget what to say. Your brain is going to figure that out and you'll be fine. It's the physical piece. And so what I do is I make sure that I'm physically getting ready, whether that's doing jumping jacks or breathing exercises or whatever to get your blood pumping. There's a reason that talk show hosts run out on stage for late night television. It's getting your adrenaline going. And funny
Yeah.
story. So when I was getting ready for Condoleezza Rice, instead of going in the green room, I went in the back where all the extra chairs and tables were, and I was doing exercises. And
Nice.
that's how I met her while I was doing jumping jacks. And she walked in and someone's like, oh, Kate, this is Condoleezza. I'm like, yeah, I know. But it's okay.
That
She
is
was fine with it.
fantastic. Yeah, that's great. So, Kate, one of the things I want to ask you, because a conversation that keeps popping up, and interestingly, it's only like midday Tuesday, and I feel like it's happened 5 times in the last 36 hours, is around compliance limitations. And, I also run a video creation masterclass. We're doing a 30-day video challenge in the community in March. And people are like, yeah, I want to do video. I want to get out there and raise my profile and be able to communicate with my clients on video. And everybody keeps talking about Bitcoin lately. We just had the whole Reddit GameStop madness.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, but compliance won't let me. So,
Yeah,
how
it's
can we kind
hard.
of move past this? Because a lot of people are like, hey, I want to come into the profession. And then they find out that they're like kind of put in this box. And they're like, but I want to leverage all of the tools that we have at our disposal to raise awareness of the profession, of what financial planning truly is, and change some of those conversations.
Yeah,
So
and I
what?
think, there's the best way for us to get people into this profession and let them see it is by being all the places everyone is today. And that's going to be TikTok, it's going to be Clubhouse, it's going to be Twitter and Facebook and all of these different places. And so I'm urging compliance, and all of even the regulators to start to think about, how we communicate today. It is so different. And I know they're starting to take a look at it, but we need to let people attract the people that we want to get into this profession. And the best way for us to also help people in this profession. If you're a student, you're on TikTok, you're on YouTube, that's how you're studying, that's how you're doing all these things. We need to be there. And I think that as we've all become more comfortable with social media, we get it. We know there's stupid things that we can do that we shouldn't do. And so we need to be held accountable for that. I was a social media ambassador for my last firm. And so I had special training on social media and I was allowed to be active on social media. They had access to all of my accounts so they could see everything that I was doing. And if I did something wrong, I would get a slap on the hand. And I knew that there were consequences if I did something wrong twice. And forget it, if it was 3 times, I was going to be out of there. But I think that we need to really treat people as this is the way to communicate. There's got to be some guardrails around it. But there can be these opportunities for people to be more free, to be more of themselves, and also then to manage to it. We all take our compliance training each year. We know what our guidelines are. We know the rails to stay in. I think we need to expand them a little bit to let people really let their true voice out on social media, and train us how to do it and have the consequences around if we're not following that. But I think that the best way for us to attract next generations of clients and talent is to be where they are. And we need to let people be more free, and they need to see younger people, more diverse people who are already active on social media. They need to see those people in this role to also then fulfill the you can't be what you don't see. People aren't looking as much on television or on the commercials and all that. And it's great that we're putting diversity in there, but we've got to be where everyone else is. And that is so many more platforms. And yes, it's more complicated, but that's what we've got to do. And we need to understand that we have consequences, but we need to start to really let people be more free around. We know what we can and can't say, but we should be able to be active on the platforms.
So what can advisors do? I mean, I heard from one yesterday that said, hey, my clients are asking about Bitcoin, but we've been told by compliance we are not allowed to discuss that, which is interesting because if you think about it in terms of what's actually in the client's best interest, not being able to come to your advisor to ask about something that very much could impact their financial life, that's not acting in the client's best interest. So what actions can the advisor take to try to nudge compliance to evolve with the times?
Yeah, I think it's if advisors kind of get together too and say like, look, 20%, 30%, 50% of my clients are asking me about Bitcoin. They're asking me about should they be getting advice on Reddit? What is going on with GameStop? What's going on with all of these stocks? To really understand, from and I get it, compliance is there to protect the advisor, to protect the clients and protect the firm. But one of the things I think we do a disservice to too is, and I learned this once from one of my compliance folks who brought them to a conference and they sat there and they're listening to advisors talk about just what they do for their clients. And the compliance person was like, wow, I only ever see the bad ones. I only ever see the ones that are getting in trouble. Thank you for having me here
Yeah.
because I got to see the 99% of advisors who are doing what they're doing for their clients and really helping them live a better life. And I'm just in my office all the time dealing with the people who didn't do that. And so I think we've got to open up dialogue with compliance and our regulators in a different way and really just start to share those stories. You're not doing your clients, to your point, anything. You're doing them a disservice if you can't talk to them about what's going on. And I think whether or not your firm is allowing you to offer it or not, that's a whole other thing, and that's something you could talk to your risk committees about. But we've got to just start to be more transparent and be able to have the conversations.
Yeah, and realizing that if our clients aren't talking to us about it, that doesn't mean they're not talking to someone about it.
They're,
So
they're
making
talking to
sure that,
somebody, and
yeah,
exactly.
and it could be Wall Street bets on Reddit, which is maybe not where their financial advice should be coming from. So I do want to make sure that we take a minute as we talk about wonderful things happening in the profession and chat about the Foundation for Financial Planning. So for those that aren't familiar, can you first share what the foundation does?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Foundation for Financial Planning is in its 26th year, and we provide pro bono financial advice to people in need. And we partner with a lot of organizations, including the FPA and NAPFund and organizations like that, the CFP board, to provide financial advisors to we work with a lot of community organizations. We work with AARP, we work with Family Reach, we work with Savvy Ladies, we work with lots of different places, nonprofits throughout the country who have programs around helping bring financial advice to those people who are in need. For instance, we've been doing this pro bono for cancer for the past several years. Just last year alone, we helped 435 families who were affected by a cancer diagnosis. And we
Wow.
know that a cancer diagnosis and financial issues on top of that can really affect a person's health beyond their cancer diagnosis. And so by providing them with a financial planner who can help them go through just what their options can be and help them think through looking at their finances from a different angle, that can help them. We've been doing a program with AARP for senior citizens and retirees who could be at risk from whether it's scams or all of these different things, and providing opportunities for financial advisors to talk to them. So we do these large scale programs, like a webinar where thousands of people can be in it, but then they can sign up for a one-on-one consultation with a certified financial planner. And many of them do that. We usually get about 100 or so after each of these sessions. And it's great for the advisor because there's a lot of opportunities. They can either sign up to do a one-off, maybe spend an hour with someone. There are advisors who work through our pro bono for cancer who sit there and they work with the family for 2 years because they want to help provide that ongoing support. And one of the things that I think was really great this year, we issued a joint statement on pro bono. We've asked the CFP board, we've recommended that they consider making pro bono, 25 hours of pro bono a year, a requirement for the CFP. As we think of ourselves, and we really want to be this profession, lawyers do it, we want to make sure that people understand that we are a profession and that we are here to give back to the public as well. And so 26 years, we have served over 450,000 families who are in need or in crisis. We do a lot of great work. We work, as I mentioned, really closely. We've had 22,000 financial advisors work with us, and we provided over $7 million in funds to pro bono organizations to provide that. So I would urge anybody, if they want to get involved in the Foundation for Financial Planning, as I tell everyone, we take money from everyone, but we also provide opportunities for you to give back to your community. So just go to ffpprobono.org is our website. We also have Pro Bono Planner Match, which is a opportunity for you to sign up for pro bono opportunities if you don't have any that you can think of. And if you want to bring your firm on board, we'd love to talk to you. I'm happy to talk to anybody about how we can help bring opportunities to more advisors to provide that pro bono financial planning. It's a great organization. It's been around for so long, and so many people have done such great work.
That's incredible. And so what is the criteria for people that do the pro bono? Do they have to be CFP professionals?
Yeah, so right now we work with CFP. So anyone who's got their CFP is eligible to do that. And, we work with some large RA firms. We work with some broker dealers. And then people just come up, on their own. And then we also help fund the FPA through some of their pro bono financial planning days that they do through the chapters. But yeah, so check out the website, and there's opportunities to get involved. There's opportunities to donate. As I mentioned, we've been around. Last year was our 25th year. We were going to have a big celebration. Obviously, we didn't. Instead, we pivoted and we created a COVID-19 relief fund, and we gave out an extra $60,000 last year to help a lot of the nonprofits shift to virtual. So whether it was Zoom licenses or just different things, so that they could start to provide their services on a pro bono basis. On a virtual basis to their pro bono clients. So big shift, but that's okay. It's now year 26. We're still here. We're just really looking to create more sustainable pro bono financial planning for everyone.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I've linked to that there, and I will link to it in the show notes as well. And thank you for what you guys are all doing. I'm like signed up for newsletters and see the updates on social media and everything. And it's so heartwarming, and it's important, in every year. I mean, cancer doesn't discriminate if there's a pandemic or not, but knowing, what additional needs there were last year, and, additional health issues that have arisen. So thank you for the work that you are all doing. And I love the idea of having that pro bono requirement, because it does just emphasize that the big part of what makes something a profession is giving back. That's a big piece of it. And when you look at, the actual qualities of a profession. So, like you said, 22,000? I mean, that's incredible. So a lot of people are doing it anyway, because it's the right thing to do. So nudging the rest of them and showing all those big firms that's
and showing the opportunities where you can do it. I don't think there's anyone who says, no, I don't want to do it. It's but I don't know where. How do you make it easy for me? And that's what we're really trying to do.
Yeah. Awesome. So Kate, as we look forward, 2021, future of financial planning, final thoughts on how people can attract and develop that next generation of talent?
Step outside of your current environment and just spread the word. I think when I talk about awareness all the time, and I'm not sure people really understand, but it's things like this, like every opportunity you have to talk about what you do, career days, all of that. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, I'm just a financial planner. I'm sitting behind a desk. It doesn't sound well. You start to tell client stories, because what we do, what financial planners do is they bring serenity, they bring peace to their clients. They bring, hope for their financial future. They oftentimes bring, families back together from a, almost a therapy perspective by just really helping people think about their finances and understand it. And they can help them create a path to get them where they want to be, and show them how to use their finances as a tool for a better life for them, for their children, for their grandchildren. And when you tell the story that way, when you talk about what it is that you're really doing for people, for individuals, for communities, how you're raising them up, how could it not be a career that anyone wouldn't want to join? And how the important thing for us to do as a profession is to open up our arms to everyone. Only about a quarter of Americans even get financial advice today. And so that means there are so many people that aren't getting financial advice. We need to start to look at how we offer it. And I know we didn't get into this a lot, but how we're offering advice the business models, the service models, whether or not you charge based on assets or you charge based on hourly. There are people that just need the advice and they're
Yep.
willing to pay. And that's what I
Yep.
think a lot of folks who've been in this industry a long time can't believe. But there are people who are willing to pay for advice, whether it's a subscription model or a one time, I'm going to sit down and do a financial plan for an hour every 3 years or a couple of hours, whatever that is. People are willing to pay for that advice. And we need to, as a profession, be able to offer it in the way that people are looking for it to really help them have better financial futures.
Yeah, and those case studies and sharing those client stories are so, so powerful because it also reminds us that it's, it's not about the advisor. It's about, like you just said, the impact that advice and planning can have. And that story just isn't getting out enough. And, video is a super powerful way of doing that. I haven't actually gotten on Clubhouse yet, but I'm sure I will. Sharing little things on TikTok, like we're talking about, getting out
Right.
there where people are and just letting them know that it isn't just picking stocks and buying products. It's about, like I said, using money as a tool to live a life you love. So that's a fantastic way to wrap up. And Kate, so much more we could talk about. So we might have to have you back on and dive into those business models and how we deliver financial planning, because that's one of
That'd be
my
awesome.
favorite topics. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Kate. This was so much fun. My first live. I think I survived, but I really do appreciate you having me on, and it was tons of fun.
Good. You survived and thrived. See, because all you got to do, just dive in. And what I always tell people is, what is the actual worst that could happen?
Hey,
It's never
that's
actually
my
that bad.
motto. Nope.
Yep.
Nope. This is great.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.